Hi, this is a short training video on engaging the audience with each other. Now, if you're watching this, you probably already know that one of the things that really sets Fall in Love with Presenting apart is engaging, you as presenter, engaging with the audience. Now, in addition to have this engagement between you and the audience and you and the audience, it is also crucial that you facilitate, make easy, enable participation between the participants themselves. So there's between you and them, and then there's between the audience members themselves. Now there are a number of reasons to do that. First of all, introverts or people who are nervous in bigger groups will find it safer, less threatening to actually only have to speak to one person, like good morning, as opposed to having to say something in front of the whole group. So it creates a level of safety. When you make it fun, this interaction, it also increases the energy levels because it'll be more fun. When you engage people with each other, it means they actually do something. They have to engage the brains, which again raises their energy levels, get blood flowing, gets their brain pumping. It also starts forming a connection between individuals in the group, which is good for you. When you have a connected group of individuals, then you no longer have just single people in the audience, you have little pockets or little groups of the audience. And the more connected somebody feels to the rest of the audience, the safer they will feel. It's all this tribal stuff. Feeling part of a bigger group by feeling part of a smaller group enables eventually feeling part of the bigger group. Good, let's see what else it says in the manual. So it also breaks the ice, as we spoke about making it safe for people to slowly start connecting with a bigger group. So breaking the ice in a relatively safe way first, making it fun, raising the energy, facilitating it like a team spirit, and also creating a sense of equality. Like, let's say in Fall in Love with Presenting, a very experienced presenter might be seated next to somebody who's really nervous and new, and because the presenter, in that case me, tell them to do the exact same thing, like turn to the person next to you and say good morning, or say I'm glad you're here, or say let's move on. It creates a sense of everybody being on the same level. Okay, good. Now, the key, there are a couple of keys or a number of keys with engaging the audience in this way, and in this video we will focus specifically on the turn to the person next to you way of engaging the audience. I do suggest that this be something you do right through your presentation. Now, if you only do it right up front, that's better than not doing it at all. But if you can continue to do it straight through the presentation, you'll be able to maintain a higher level of energy, a higher level of engagement, which would ultimately benefit not just the participants, but definitely also benefit you. So turn to the person next to you, a few guidelines on it. First of all, make it fun, make it original, and make it real. So the more innovative and original things you can come up with, if you get your audience to turn to the person next to you and say the same thing every time, like, well that was cool, well that was cool, well that was cool, like after the third time it's no longer cool, it's boring, and the eyes will start rolling. So make it fun, right? Make it original, do something different every time and see what response you get. And then also make it real. In other words, get them to say something that is pertinent here, real, in the moment, like, that was interesting, or let's move on, or enough of that now, or I'm really glad that you're here, something that actually makes it real here in the moment. So it's crucial that you say that with a level of confidence, like, right, turn to the person next to you and say, good morning, I'm glad you're here. Right? You've got to say that with some level of confidence, especially in the beginning when you might be nervous and anxious about doing it. It's crucial that you practice this step, because the more uncertain you are of yourself in making that request, the more they will pick up that you're uncertain, and the less likely or the more likely they are to not want to do it or not do it in the way that you want them to. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Not turn to the person next to you, look them in the eyes, tell them you're glad that they are here, and then say 3 things about why you're happy that you're about to meet them, and then wish them well for the rest of the day, and also tell them something about you that you like. People go like, what now? It's way too much information. There's no way that most people will be able to remember all that information, and that's going to cause confusion and chaos, and the energy in your room is going to drop, which is the last thing that you want. Keep it simple. Turn to the person next to you, say good morning. turn to someone on the other side and say, I'm glad you're here. Right? Simple, short instructions. We spoke about clarity. So saying something that is very clear as opposed to convoluted. The simpler and the clearer it is, the easier it will be for them to follow the instruction that you're giving them. Also, I spoke about brevity. Keep it short, right? Keep it absolutely simple. You also want to, unless you are actively encouraging them to tell stories and make this engagement a long process, to prevent that from happening, it's important that you keep the instructions short and simple. Turn to the person next to you and say good morning, right? So all there is to do is good morning and come back. When you give a vague instruction like turn to the person next to you and introduce yourself, right? Now we know an introduction could be, hi, I'm Benny. Or it could be, well, I was born in 1969, right? It could be a long thing. And that's not necessarily what you want. In other words, when you want it to be a short thing, then give an instruction that implies and makes it clear that you want this to be a short interaction. For example, turn to the person next to you and in 3 sentences or less, introduce yourself. Right? Now you've set the parameters and now they know what is expected of them, and you're not going to have to cut them off kind of mid-sentence. If you didn't say how much time you wanted them to use to introduce themselves, somebody's just going to get warmed up and you're going to cut the exercise, which isn't really going to help them feel good about that exercise. Have fun, I already spoke about that, right? Have fun, play, come up with something new and ingenious every time you get them to turn to each other. And then get out of the way. What I mean by that is once you've given them an instruction, turn to the person next to you, you've got 2 minutes, introduce yourselves. Then what you need to do after that is you need to shut up. One of the most annoying things that you can do to participants is just as they're getting into the group exercise, go, oh, excuse me. Now when you didn't give the instructions well, as still happens with me sometimes, then you have to weigh up the consequences of interrupting them with not interrupting them. If you've given them the wrong instructions or very vague instructions, and it's going to lead to chaos or not the result that you wanted, you have to go, excuse me, sorry to interrupt, I didn't say something very well, or here's a clearer way of saying that, and so on. But for the most, if you follow these rules, keep it simple, keep it clear, make it fun, keep it short, be clear about the whole thing, then after you've given instruction, then you shush so that they can get on with stuff. That's also good news for you, because as they do their 2-minute or 3-minute exercise, it gives you time to gather your thoughts, take in the bigger room, kind of sense what energy is going on, what's going on with that group, what's going on with that group, give you a chance to look at your notes, gives you a chance to line up your next piece of music that you want to play, to make a short note, to speak to one of the crew members, to do something, gives you time to breathe and think and recollect yourself. Also in terms of time, typically when I present, time moves slower than I think. So I might say, turn to the person next to you and tell them one thing about you that you like. Now, then I have to count in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to count. Otherwise, after 2 seconds, I'm going to say, great, that's it, we're done. And didn't actually allow them enough time. Also, if you say to them, you've got 2 minutes to introduce yourself, or you've got 3 minutes to talk about this, that, or the other, make sure that you actually time it so that it is actually 2 or 3 minutes. Again, for me, I think 2 minutes have gone, and in fact, we've only had 20 seconds. So really be true to your word. If you tell people they've got 2 minutes, if it's someone like me, I have a sense when I'm in the audience, or I have a watch and I know how long 2 minutes is. Then if you cut me off before the 2 minutes is done, or the one partner gets so much time and the other one gets a lot less time, it just sets you up for people getting upset and feel they're being treated unfairly, which is not the purpose of the exercise. Remember, the purpose of the exercise to get the audience engaged is to up the energy levels in the room, to give more people airtime. If you have 50 people, 20 people, 100 people in a room, and they all have to check in, they all have to introduce themselves, If you have 50 people in the room, even if they only take half a minute each, that's 25 minutes of check-in, which isn't the most exciting way to spend time. However, you can have 50 or 100 or 500 people check in 2 minutes when you get them to do it in little groups. So it's a big time saver, and at the same time, it gives people more airtime. So that again, we move away from the traditional way of presenting, which is having a monologue, the presenter just speaking at or speaking to the audience, and actually allow the audience to also feel that they participate in the whole event, which again engages the brain, makes it more interesting for them, gives them more airtime, builds a smaller container, helps people to connect with each other, gives you breathing space. I mean, the benefits are numerous. That's it for engaging the audience. Onwards and upwards. See you back next time.